The next one who's going to be up is Miss Courtney Phillips Long. She was on our broadcast last year, in fact, and it's really cool to have her here again this year because she was bald last year, and she was my co-host, and she was in the thick of going through triple negative breast cancer. And I have to tell you guys a really funny story. You know, I get messages a lot on Facebook where people are like, "Hey, my friend's been diagnosed with breast cancer. Can you talk to him? You know, they want to talk to somebody who's been through it and things like that." And of course, you know, that's what I feel like I'm called to do out there. So I had a friend of mine, Brandy McCombs, who's actually watching the broadcast. She's either on Periscope or Facebook. I think she's toggling back and forth, actually. But a friend of mine, Brandy McCombs, and then another friend of mine, Jeff Durbin, both messaged me separately, probably just a few days apart. Brandy messaged me and she says, "Hey, I've got a friend. She's been diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. I like to introduce you guys online." Then my friend over here, Jeff Durbin, says, "April, I've got a cousin. She's been diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. I'd like you to meet her." Same person. How wickety whack is that? Jeff Durbin, I was in a band with back in 1992 when I was about 5 years old. And what? That's right. What? It's 1992 in a band with Jeff Durbin. He was my guitar player. And Brandy McCombs was actually married to my singer back in 1997, 98, 99 time frame in there. So it was crazy having that come together. So it was destined for me to meet Courtney Phillips Long, who we're getting on the line right now. Welcome to the broadcast.
Hello, April.
What's up, Mama?
How are you?
It's so good to see you again, and you look beautiful as ever.
Thank you. So do you. With your pink hair.
Thanks. I paid her to say that before she joined. Don't let it fool you. So, Courtney, how does it feel to be broadcasting live a year later with hair?
It's very strange, but in a great way. I mean, I can't believe. I think I told you the other day. It's like kind of ironic that I've been battling with the flu like this whole week, and last year I had a whole another kind of flu kind of thing going on. So it's kind of ironic that here we are again another year later and I still have this like raspy flu voice.
Yeah, it's your sexy smelly cat voice.
Yes. It is.
Dude, it's awesome. It's the Flynn voice, man. That is awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's another point to make is, you know, as breast cancer survivors, you know, our immune system is adversely affected forever, basically. You know, it's just we get sick a lot easier after going through chemotherapy and cancer. So, you know, yeah, we have to watch out. It's easy for us to catch the bugs. So you've been going through the flu, but you still look gorgeous.
Well, thank you. But this is my first, like, virus or whatever since chemo because I've been so careful. And, I mean, I even got the flu shot and everything, and I still got the flu. So we just have to be extra careful and be kind to our bodies. And I just joined Lifetime Fitness like a few weeks ago, and I was like going to the gym every day, and I was like swimming and lifting weights, and I'm like, oh, I feel so good to be me again.
Right.
And then bam, I get sick.
Yeah, knocked back, man. That sucks.
Yep, I know.
Yeah, you know, there's probably a lot of people because since last year we did Blab, it was pretty much a different audience. You know, a lot of the people that were on Blab were from Periscope, who were from Twitter, which is a whole different audience than what we're reaching tonight, which is our Facebook audience here. And so there's probably a lot of people, and we do have Periscope on the line. Again, Periscope is always with us, no matter where we go. Thank you, Periscope, for being online. Woo!
Awesome.
So, yeah, Periscope love. So for those of you who were not a part of the Triple Negative Breast Cancer Day broadcast last year, can you take us back to what happened? How did it all begin? Where did your story start for triple negative breast cancer, Courtney?
Okay, yeah, for triple negative, gosh, hang on, I got to think because, you know, chemo brain. But 2015, the day before I can't remember, I think my 36th birthday. I'm 37 now, so yeah, I guess 36. I was 35 day before my 36th birthday, and I'd actually found a lump 1 year prior and went in and had a mammogram done, and that was in 2014. They told me it was nothing. I went back exactly a year like they told me to because it had increased in size. And at this point, I kind of knew. I knew going in. I was like, you know, this has got to be cancer. I felt it in my gut. You know, I think as women, we need to always remember to really go with our gut instinct and to be an advocate for yourself, because so many people will tell you, oh, it's nothing. I mean, and doctors are humans, they make mistakes. So in my case, they did make a mistake, but luckily they did still catch it in time, and it hadn't had any lymph node involvement. So I went a whole year. By this point, we're looking at something that's about the size of a golf ball at this point.
Wow.
And it was
to
literally.
To me, that seems so huge. I think mine was like 10 millimeters or something. Mine was very small.
Yeah.
Golf ball is a golf ball. I mean, that's big.
Yeah. I mean, there was no mistaking it. I could literally, it's kind of weird to say, but I could literally pick it up and kind of move it around, which is very strange. But,
I remember one of the things that they told, or that I read, is that if you find a lump in it, I think if it moves around, I actually can't remember, but if it moves around or it's attached, it's more likely to be one thing over another. So that's interesting to point out, that you could actually grab hold of it and move it around. It's
it was creepy. Interesting, because they said, a lot of times that's indicative of a cyst, because you can kind of grab it and it didn't feel like it was really attached to anything. And so I think that's why maybe I kind of put it off. I kept putting it off for that entire year, even though I kind of felt in my gut that there was something not right, and I could tell it was growing. And I want to point something out. And I've just kind of come to this realization recently. I was taking, I'm not going to name the brand that I was taking, but I was taking some supplements at the time that had a ton of vitamin A in it. And I was told by my oncologist recently that I really needed to stay away from vitamin A, that it feeds breast cancer. And at the time, not saying that caused my breast cancer. I think that I already had the breast cancer, but I think that it was feeding it. And I really feel that way, because when I started taking those supplements, and I looked back at it recently, and every single thing sorry, my clock's going off. Every single thing that I was taking had like tons and tons. I was taking 3 different parts of a supplement, and everything had tons of vitamin A in it. And I think that it was feeding it. And I kind of feel like it sped up the process, honestly, because isn't that weird? I mean, I just feel that way. I don't know that that's true, but it's just kind of another gut instinct of mine.
And I always try to stick to like cancer.gov, real reputable sources to cross-check those kinds of things. It's really so difficult to navigate, all the different things that you hear when you're going through breast cancer, because, like you're talking about with the vitamin A, like you hear people say, "Oh, sugar feeds cancer," or just all this different multitude of stuff. Oh, you have to eat all organic. There's just all this information's coming at you, and it's really difficult to, sift through that and know what's fact. So it's a good point to bring up. Like you said, that's what you felt, and that's what we're here to talk about, is what we felt in our experience and everything, and how that worked out. So
yeah, definitely. So back to finding out, I can remember the day that I found out. And I wasn't surprised really by the call, but I was on a photo shoot actually with our mutual friend, Brandy. And we were out doing like a bridal type shoot. And I just remember I was sitting out in the middle of the country, like nobody around.
Right.
I was waiting on the call, I'd been waiting like all day on the call. And when my doctor called, I just remember sitting there alone. I was totally alone. And him telling me, "Courtney, you have invasive ductal carcinoma, and it's very aggressive." He didn't tell me it was triple negative. He waited for my surgeon to tell me that. But
wow.
He was like, "It's very aggressive, and I want you to see a surgeon tomorrow." It wasn't like, "I want you to wait a week," or "I want you to wait a month,"
right.
Or it was like, "We got to get on this now."
Yeah.
And a doctor tells you that, I mean, of course, there's just this like dreadful feeling that comes over you, and you're scared. I mean, my daughter was 4 at the time, and I was like, wow, my whole life is about to be turned upside down, and it was. I mean, it definitely was. I mean, I cried every single day for probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. I think I cried every single day, but it got better, and I'm here to tell you now that, I went through, I was in a clinical trial, and my doctors put me in the right place with the right people. and I was very blessed. I mean, totally blessed, because my husband and I didn't even, I'm self-employed, and we had insurance for our daughter, but we didn't have insurance for ourselves. And so, we totally got blessed with insurance. We got blessed with a clinical trial that basically just handed me my chemo drugs. And that right there, was such a relief. Yay, Cairo! That was such a relief. He's got the Cairo symbol on his arm. Did you know that?
No.
I just saw it come through. Oh my gosh. I was like, yay, Cairo. Sorry, that distracted me.
I was like, what is she screaming about? It freaked me out.
That was just so random. Sorry. It was like, anyways, yeah. So, it was, what was I saying? Chemo brain.
Well, you're talking to somebody else who has chemo brain. I don't know how you expect me to help.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. And my mom asked me not too long ago, she said, how long could you use that as an excuse? And I was like, forever. I can use that as an excuse.
Yeah, that's the good thing. It's true. We can use it forever. Well, because it is fact. I mean, those of you who are familiar, when you go through chemo, a lot of times it's just like your brain is like you can't remember things. Like you're saying, you're talking along, and all of a sudden you're like, I just have no idea what the heck.
Yeah, I lose my train of thought really easily, and it's gotten worse, I think, too, because of all the surgeries, just going under and stuff, And I've had 6 surgeries. That's another thing. I've had 6 surgeries in a year, actually less than a year.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about those surgeries? I know that you had a double mastectomy.
Yes.
And you were actually BRCA1. You had the BRCA1 gene.
Yeah, BRCA1 positive, and the gene actually comes from my dad. It doesn't come from my mom.
Oh wow! Did your dad get tested?
He did. He got tested.
That's
my mom and my dad both did.
I talk to people all the time who get tested, but I don't ever hear about him actually following through and finding out where did that gene come from. Is really smart.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because my grandmother, of course, in the middle of me going through chemo, my grandma was like, well, I did have this ovarian cancer one time. And I was like, Grandma, what? I mean, she never told anybody about this.
I ended up finding out a bunch of stories about my family as well. After I was diagnosed, I was like, all these people on my dad's side, because I feel that it was from my dad's side too, but we haven't found a gene that's consistent across or that's traced back to breast cancer. But I found that I had all this breast cancer on my dad's side, but it was kind of deep,
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's interesting. And my mom's mom, she had breast cancer. We thought for sure it was going to come from my mom's side of the family, because my mamaw was, in her early 30s when she was diagnosed. And I'm here to tell you, she's in the hospital right now. You guys pray for her, but she's still kicking it at 82 years old. I mean, nice. She's a breast cancer survivor. I don't even know how many years that is now, but, she was like 30 when she was diagnosed, which is incredible. Wow. And I'm telling you, back then, they did it so radical, because we didn't know about, BRCA1 or BRCA2, or we didn't know about, triple negative or triple positive or any of those things. And then
they also didn't have insurance didn't cover Reconstruction back then either.
No,
it was a totally different world back then.
Totally different. And I mean, they took every lymph node. I believe her breast cancer was on the right side. Well, mine was on the right side. Maybe hers was on the left. But I mean, they took everything out of her arm.
Yeah, back then they took muscle and everything but the kitchen sink. They're like, exactly. Just grab all that. It's safer.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, but it saved her life. I mean, she's still here, and still kicking it. So, but yeah, 6 surgeries because I'm BRCA1 positive. I had to have a hysterectomy as well. And so no more babies for me, but I've got my one perfect little angel, and she's more than I can handle at times. So
when you brought her up a second ago, I was thinking, gosh, man, because I don't have any kids. I mean, I have my dog; she's my kid. But stop it! I love my dog.
Dogs are babies.
We'll do a different segment on my dog next week. No,
I couldn't get her to go home last night because of the dog talk.
Mean, you said she was 4 years old. I mean, what do you tell your daughter? I mean, obviously you're going to go through physical changes, your mom's going to be sick and everything. She's got to know something. So what do you tell a 4-year-old kid when you're going through something like that?
That's I don't know. I mean, I think it was hard, but she just kind of knew, and she was always there with me. She named my tumor, actually. It was kind of funny. She just
What,
knew that
wait,
mommy
hey,
was,
hold on. She named your tumor.
yes.
What does she name it? You have to tell
So,
us.
well, she called it Moon for some reason.
Noon?
Moon, like MOO, like the moon.
Well, did she ever see like a scan or something? Maybe.
No, she didn't, but she told me when I got my port, she named my port too. So she named my tumor Moon, and when I got my port, she named it Sun. And so to me, that was the darkness and then the light, So I think that's how she viewed it in her eyes, which
Wow,
is pretty
that's
incredible.
actually, man. Sometimes kids, it's like, they're so innocent. This is like that's actually really deep for a kid, a 4-year-old kid.
I know.
So
I mean, it blows me away.
What did you? How did you tell her? Or did you tell her? Or?
I told her. I really honestly don't even remember exactly how. It was just kind of like she knew. And I just said, mommy's sick, and I'm going to have to go through some changes, but it's going to be good changes because even though I'm going to lose my hair, that means that the medicine is working. I said, I'm going to get really sick, but that means that the medicine's working and it's going to save my life. And so she was just so sweet to me all through chemo. Now she's crazy and back to normal, but during chemo, she was like the sweetest thing ever. I mean, that baby, she would pray over me, just incredible. It was like God was just working through this child so much for me, and I needed that. And she's just the sweetest thing ever. And I don't know if you remember, there was like a video that I posted of her, and it was like towards of the end of my chemo, and man, I was so sick with that AC. Oh my gosh, it was so horrible.
Right.
I mean, they call that thing the red devil for a purpose.
Right.
It really is.
Exactly right.
And she was singing Kumbaya.
I remember that post was excellent, man. That's
but I mean,
awesome.
she kept me totally entertained, throughout chemo and stuff. But I never, she didn't come to surgeries with me and stuff like that. I kind of kept her away from all that kind of stuff. She didn't come to chemo with me.
Right.
But the night that I shaved my head, because I held on to my hair for as long as I could, but about 3 weeks in on chemo, I mean, it was so matted up and stuff. And I cut it, and I said, it was like midnight. She was asleep. And I looked at my mom and my husband because we were at my mom and dad's house. I don't remember why we were there so late, but she was asleep on the couch. And I just looked at him and I said, let's do it. We got to do it now while she's asleep. And my mom's like, what are you going to tell her?
So it was really spontaneous. You didn't plan it at all, huh?
No, I didn't plan it. And I had all these friends that were totally pissed at me because they were like, wait a minute.
We wanted to have a party around it.
Yeah. And I'm like, I know, but my hair was driving me crazy and it was itching and it was all over my clothes. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, let's just do it.
Right.
And so my husband completely documented it on his phone. And we did all these fun different hairstyles. I did like a pixie and I did a mohawk. And
that's awesome.
It was just the three of us, me and my mom and my husband at midnight. And so the next morning, my daughter wakes up and she looks at me and she's just like, looking at me all crazy. And I'm like, are you looking at me crazy because I don't have any hair? And she was like, yeah. And I go, well, the hair fairy came and took it in the middle of the night.
That's brilliant.
And she was like, ah, ha, ha, ha. And then she just, she went about her day and had a blast. And, the hair fairy came and took Mama's hair and it was great. It was going to heal me, so.
I think that's, I don't know why, but I wouldn't have thought to say, my hair is going to fall out, I'm going to get sick, but that means the medicine's working. That's really smart. There's a reason I'm not a parent. Well, there's a lot of reasons I'm not a parent. Again,
well, sometimes it's not even, we all have doubts and fears of being a parent,
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder if I'm doing it right, but I just said whatever came to my mind, really,
right.
And it worked. It worked. I mean, she said to me recently, she's like, Mama, I'm scared that you might get sick again. So I know she has that fear, but, we just try to stay really positive and keep things normal. And that was the other thing is I really tried to keep things very normal for her. I kept her in all her normal activities. I tried not to mess up her schedule too much, even though mine was so like upside down. I tried to keep everything really normal for her. And I think that's, was great. That's what you need to do in that situation.
Right. So now that you're, how long have you been cancer free? Like when did they tell you were cancer free?
Well, I guess it would be at the time of mastectomy, I guess. So that would have been in April. So almost a year. Almost a year.
So
Not quite a year.
what do you have to do now? Do you go for checkups like every 6 months, every 3 months, or how often are you going in?
Every 3 months right now. And everything's been good so
What do they
far.
what do they do at those appointments?
So pretty much every appointment, people play with my boobs. I mean, like a lot. Um, I see my breast surgeon, I see my oncologist, and my plastic surgeon pretty regularly. And they check me like crazy. Very thorough check. I mean, this is not like a check that you would get at a gynecologist. I mean, they go in and and because I have implants now as well, so I went with Reconstruction. So
Right.
they really, really check you. I mean, sometimes when I leave, and 'cause I don't have a lot of feeling anymore, but I'm starting to get some feeling back. And sometimes when I leave, I feel kind of sore because they really get in there and make sure they're not feeling anything. And with having implants, that's one thing I'm kind of worried about after the fact. I didn't think about it so much. I just felt like I wanted Reconstruction. That was really important to me. And, everybody's different in
Right.
that aspect of what they want. But for me, it was really important. But then after the fact, I was like, oh crap, are they going to be able to see something, or am
Right.
I going to be able to see it? So I kind of went through that after the fact. I didn't even think about it before. And then after I was like,
Like kind of
uh-oh.
like worried that it might make it harder to find something or
Yeah.
yeah.
And they assured me that it wouldn't, over and over again, but you never know.
Right. And so
Hopefully.
do they do with the reconstruction, do you have mammograms?
No mammograms.
Will you ever have mammograms?
I don't think so. I was told I would never do a mammogram again. So, because there's no tissue, I have no tissue at all. So, everything's completely gone. It's really interesting, like having the reconstruction now, because you would think, that, I'd be so happy. It's, oh, that, you got new boobs. No, it's not like that. I mean, I was lucky I had nipple sparing, so I still got to keep my own nipples. I mean, we're getting really personal here, but people need to hear this. So I got to keep my own nipples, which was important to me as well. But I still have the scars. They don't look like how my breast. I mean, I have what I call the dream team. I mean, my plastic surgeon and my breast surgeon were incredible. They are incredible, and they've done just an outstanding job. And most people are like, what are you upset about? But you know what? I really liked my boobs before. So, to have that taken away from you, it sucks,
Well, I mean, and that was you, right? I mean, those your
Yeah.
breasts were you, and now what you have it probably doesn't feel like you yet.
No,
But
it doesn't. And it's so heavy. It's very heavy. My back hurts. Honestly, I never had back pain, from my breast before, but now I do, because the implants are so much heavier than just a natural, your natural tissue and fat that you have already. But I was lucky I got to have my implants put on top, which is kind of like ideal, and your healing process is faster that way too. But you can only do that if somebody, like probably you, April, you're very thin, you probably wouldn't have been able to do that. You would have had to gone like under the muscle. But they told me, they said, if you've got a thick enough fat flap, we can go on top. That'll kind of like, so I was like, okay, so I got nice and fattened up for chemo, and now I got a nice big fat flap. And
I remember getting swollen, chubby in the cheeks from those steroids and everything.
oh
So,
yeah,
since I didn't have reconstruction, as I think most of the people watching probably know that, and we'll talk about it more in a little bit, but, one of the things they're wondering is you hear a lot of different stories, and I know a lot of people who've had breast cancer and had reconstruction, they weren't allowed, they couldn't keep their nipples. They had to take them, like they were part
yeah.
of the problem. So tell us if you know, like why were you able to keep your nipples, and more so,
Well,
like are you
yeah,
able, like I know, like with me, I have a lot of spots on my chest that I just don't have any feeling at all anymore, and you were saying that you don't have feeling.
yeah.
Do you have feeling? Sorry to ask, do you have feeling on your nipples? Can you feel?
No, I don't.
So those
No, but
nerve.
it doesn't mean that it won't come back. I mean, they said it's a possibility. I mean, but it probably won't. There's a lot of craziness that goes on with that, because they have to go underneath and cut all these nerves and stuff and then reconnect things and to make sure that you have blood flow. Because even if you do a nipple sparing mastectomy, you still have the chance of losing your nipples. So, and like for me, I was really lucky because my blood flow was really good, and I went into surgery pretty healthy and stuff, even though I'd been through 20 weeks of chemo. They got me really good and healthy before I went into surgery. And that's important too.
Right.
And just to be taking care of yourself and everything before you go into surgery.
Yeah. Well, I know we just only had about 5 more minutes left. And I want to be sure to ask you one thing real quick is, one thing I was noticing when I was talking to folks before we started the broadcast, just kind of getting to know people a little bit, is that it doesn't seem like many people who have had triple negative have PET scans. Have you ever had a PET scan?
No, I've never had a PET scan.
We need to dig into this and figure out what that's about.
Yeah,
I really don't know what the story is there. I mean, most people that I know of that have had breast cancer have PET scans. And for those of you who aren't aware, PET scans are kind of like, as far as I know, more of like a high-tech cancer searching machine that's like a CAT scan or a MRI, but it's specifically looking for cancer, and somehow it can detect cancer better than anything else. But I also understand that's probably a lot of radiation through the PET scans and stuff like that. So I don't know what exactly they, what reasons they sometimes do PET scans, or maybe why they don't for triple negative breast cancer folks or whatever. But we're going to be joined by a couple other people, and Courtney, is so awesome to be able to keep you a little bit longer than everybody else.
Yeah,
since we had that time last year. It's just really good to see you on the other side of it this year.
I feel great. I'm doing good, and I'm here to tell any other women out there that there is a light at the end of the tunnel when you go through this. Just keep the faith and put God first and in the middle of it, and you'll make it through. There definitely is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm here to tell you that I got hair back.
Woohoo! Go girl, go girl. Yeah, be sure and everybody be sure and show some love to Courtney in the chat room there. Tell her how she's super strong, courageous for getting on the show tonight and sharing her story. So we really appreciate you being here, Courtney. Thank you so much for joining today.